My wife cheated with her lover in the bathroom, and I punched him. My son testified against me and accused me of domestic violence. They were happy to have me arrested. I am 45 years old. I have been married to my wife, Sarah, 42 years old, for 18 years. We have a 19-year-old son, Marcus. We had him before marriage, and he is currently in his second year of college. I inherited my house from my grandmother 5 years before I got married, so it has been in my family for decades. On Wednesday, I decided to surprise Sarah by returning early from a business trip. I was supposed to be away until Friday, but my meetings ended ahead of schedule. I stopped by the florist and bought her favorite white roses. I arrived home around 2 in the afternoon and noticed a car I did not recognize. I thought maybe it belonged to a friend of Sarah's or a neighbor. I used my key to enter through the front door and shouted, "Honey, I am home early." There was no answer. I heard the shower running upstairs. I went to the kitchen, put the flowers in a vase, and headed upstairs to surprise her when I heard voices. 2 voices, a male one that I definitely did not recognize, and then Sarah's laugh, a laugh I had not heard in years. I stood there for probably 30 seconds, just listening, hoping I was wrong. But the voices became clearer as I approached our room. The bathroom door was ajar, and through the frosted glass of the shower I saw them. I do not remember consciously making the decision to open the door. Everything after that is a bit of a blur. I threw open the shower door, and there was my wife with a guy who looked to be in his 30s. Dark hair, well-built, completely naked. Obviously the guy, I later learned his name is David, immediately put his hands up and started saying, "Hey, can I explain?" Sarah screamed and grabbed a towel. I told him to get the hell out of my house. He said he was just going to get dressed and would leave without a problem, but something inside me broke. Maybe it was seeing him so calm, as if this were just an annoyance. Maybe it was the fact that he was in my shower in the house my grandmother left me. I grabbed him by the shoulders and threw him against the bathroom wall hard. He tried to push me back, so I punched him, and then I punched him again. Sarah was screaming for me to stop. The guy was on the floor covering his face with blood coming from his nose. I probably would have kept hitting him, but seeing the blood brought me back to reality. I backed away and told him he had 5 minutes to get out before I called the police. He grabbed his clothes and ran out of the house, still bleeding and half-dressed. Sarah went after him. Now she says I am a violent psychopath and that she will stay at her sister's house. She claims I could have killed him and that she is afraid of me. She is threatening to file for divorce and a restraining order. My son called me yesterday and said his mother told him what happened. He told me he could not believe I would attack an innocent person and that he is ashamed of me. When I tried to explain to him that the guy was sleeping with his mother, he told me that did not give me the right to assault anyone. I know I probably should not have hit him, but I found him in my shower with my wife in my house. I feel that any reasonable person would have reacted the same way. My brother thinks I should have called the police, but what were they going to charge him with? It is not illegal to sleep with someone's wife if she consents. Update. Well, the situation has gone from bad to completely screwed. I am writing this from a hotel because I cannot get into my own house. David, the guy I found Sarah with, decided to press charges. I was arrested on Friday morning at my office. 2 police officers arrived around 10 in the morning while I was in a meeting with clients. They were professional, but there is nothing discreet about being arrested at work. My boss had to explain to the clients why their meeting was being postponed. I spent Friday night in the county jail before my lawyer could get me out on bail. I am being charged with third-degree assault, which is apparently a misdemeanor, but can still carry up to a year in jail and a $4,000 fine if I am found guilty. The bail was $2,500. While I was in jail, Sarah went to court and got a temporary restraining order against me. She alleged that I had a history of controlling and violent behavior and that she feared I might harm her. This is a complete lie. I have never laid a hand on Sarah in 18 years of marriage. I had not even raised my voice to her before all this started. The restraining order means I cannot come within 100 yards of her, which includes my own house, since she is living there. When I got out of jail on Saturday morning, I drove home and discovered that she had changed the locks. My key no longer works. There is a patrol car parked across the street, apparently to make sure I do not violate the order. I called my lawyer immediately. He told me that since the house is mine and I have the deed to prove it, we can fight it in court, but it will take time. The temporary order is valid for 2 weeks, and then there is a hearing where a judge will decide whether to make it permanent. In the meantime, I am legally barred from my own property. I am staying in a hotel now, living out of the suitcase I took on the business trip. I did not even take it out of the car. I cannot access my clothes, my mail, my personal belongings, nothing. Sarah does not answer my calls or messages. When I called the house, she answered and hung up immediately. The most messed up part is that Marcus came back from college this weekend and is staying at the house with her. I sent him a message to see if we could get coffee and talk. He replied, "Mom showed me the police report. I cannot believe you are my father. Do not contact me until you get help for your anger issues." What anger issues? I have never had anger issues in my life. The only time I have ever been violent was when I found that guy in my shower. But somehow I am the crazy one here. My lawyer says the order will probably be temporary, as there is no evidence of domestic violence or threats. Sarah would have to prove a pattern of abuse for it to be made permanent, and she cannot because it does not exist. But he also warned me that these things can drag on for months, especially if she files for divorce. At the same time, I had to call my boss and explain why I was arrested. He was understanding, but said that if this ends in a conviction or affects my ability to work with clients, we would have to talk about my future at the company. I have been there for 12 years without any disciplinary problems, and now my job is at risk because I caught my wife cheating on me. The worst part is the financial hit. Between the lawyer, bail, and hotel expenses, I have already spent over $8,000. I still have to keep paying the mortgage on a house I cannot live in, plus my credit cards and Marcus's tuition. Sarah has access to our joint accounts, so she can drain them while I am paying for everything separately. I feel like I am being punished for being the victim here. She cheats on me in my own house, and somehow I end up arrested and homeless, while she gets to play the victim. How is that justice? Update 2. The hearing on the restraining order was 3 weeks ago, and, let me tell you, it was a real eye-opener. The judge dismissed the restraining order, but what happened in that courtroom forever changed my relationship with my son. First, the good news. My lawyer was right. Sarah could not prove any history of domestic violence or threats. The judge said that although what I did to David was clearly wrong, it was an isolated incident that did not demonstrate a pattern of violence towards Sarah. The order was lifted, and I got my house back. But here's where it gets really messed up. Marcus showed up to testify on behalf of his mother. My own son stood before the judge and lied about me under oath. He claimed that I was controlling and emotionally abusive throughout his childhood. He said that I monitored all communications at home and that I made important decisions without consulting his mother. He told the judge that I had a bad temper and that he was always afraid of making me angry while growing up. That is a complete lie, and Marcus knows it. Yes, when he was a teenager, Sarah and I had rules about his phone and internet use, but that is called being responsible parents. And yes, I made decisions about things like finances and home repairs, but it was because Sarah always said she did not want to deal with it and preferred that I handle it. The most painful part was when he said he felt relieved to go to college because he no longer had to walk on eggshells at home. This boy who used to call me every Sunday from college to talk about his classes and his friends, now telling a judge that he was afraid of me. My lawyer cross-examined him and asked him specific questions about incidents of violence or abuse. Marcus could not name a single specific incident, which greatly weakened his testimony. When asked if I had ever hit him or his mother, he admitted that I had not, but said that abuse is not always physical. The judge clearly did not buy it. She said that while family testimony is important, she needed to see evidence of truly threatening behavior towards Sarah, not general claims about family dynamics. That is when my lawyer presented our evidence. We had Sarah's credit card statements and bank records from the last 8 months. She spent over $7,000 on hotels, restaurants, and gifts during her affair. Not just in local hotels, there were charges for weekend trips to Chicago, Milwaukee, and even a long weekend in Minneapolis. The hotels alone totaled $7,800. Luxury places, also the Grand Geneva, the Palmer House, hotels that cost between $300 and $400 per night. In addition, another $4,200 on dinners at expensive restaurants, always for 2 people according to the amounts, and $3,000 at jewelry and men's clothing stores. My lawyer also requested her phone records, which showed hundreds of calls and messages to David's number for the past 8 months. The timing matched the credit card charges perfectly. Sarah's lawyer tried to argue that this financial evidence was not relevant to determining whether I posed a threat to her. But the judge said it was relevant because it showed that Sarah had been planning and carrying out an extensive affair, which gave context to my reaction upon discovering it. The restraining order was dismissed, but Sarah immediately filed for divorce. She is asking for alimony, half the value of the house, even though it is my inheritance, and half of everything else we own. Her divorce lawyer is still trying to use the assault charge against me. They say I am unfit to handle financial decisions and that Sarah needs protection from my volatile behavior. But my criminal lawyer says that the assault case will most likely be reduced to a charge of disorderly conduct with probation and anger management classes. The hardest part is Marcus. After his testimony, I confronted him outside the courthouse. I asked him why he lied to help his mother, and he told me he was not lying, that was how he experienced our family growing up. I told him that having rules and expectations is not abuse, and that every decision I made was for the good of our family. He replied that that is exactly what an abusive person would say, and that he was proud of his mother for finally standing up to me. I have not spoken to him since. He is living with Sarah at her sister's house, and they have both blocked my number. My brother says I should try to repair the relationship, but I do not know how you get over your own son accusing you of abuse in a court. The divorce process is going to be a mess. I am back in my house, but it no longer feels like a home. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just left quietly when I caught them, filed for divorce discreetly, and avoided all this drama. Update 3. The divorce was finalized last week, and I got a much better result than I expected. The judge clearly saw through Sarah's lies about abuse and control, and the financial evidence of her affair made a huge difference in the settlement. Sarah got almost nothing. The judge ruled that the house remains mine as it is an inherited property. Sarah tried to argue that she was entitled to compensation for improvements made over the years, but my lawyer proved that most of the major renovations, kitchen, basement, new roof, were paid for with my income, not with joint funds. She was given $12,000 for her contributions to improvements. As for the other assets, the judge divided them according to contribution and conduct. Sarah kept her car, her personal belongings, and $25,000 from our savings. I kept my car, my retirement accounts, and everything else. There is no spousal support due to the adultery and her ability to work. She has a bachelor's degree and work experience, so the judge said she can support herself. The best part was when Sarah's lawyer tried to argue that she needed more money because she was starting over after years of financial dependence. The judge literally laughed and said that someone who spent $15,000 on hotels and gifts for her lover clearly knew how to handle money. Sarah went crazy when the sentence was handed down. She started crying and saying it was not fair, that she had given up her career for our family, which is a complete lie. She worked part-time by choice and quit 3 years ago because she said she was tired of office politics, not because I forced her to. The judge told her that adultery has consequences and that using marital funds to support an affair is a serious breach of fiduciary duty. She told her she could appeal, but that the evidence was clear and that the ruling was completely within the state guidelines for at-fault divorces. Marcus was in the room for the final hearing, still supporting his mother. When the judge announced the ruling, he stood up and shouted, "This is bullshit. She has nowhere to go." The bailiff had to tell him to sit down and be quiet. After the hearing, Marcus followed me to the parking lot and started yelling at me. He told me I was destroying his mother's life and that I was insensitive for leaving her with nothing. I replied that his mother destroyed her own life by cheating on me. He told me that a real man would take care of his ex-wife no matter what she had done. That is when I lost my patience. I told him that a real son does not lie in court to help his unfaithful mother, and that if he wants to live in his fantasy world where she is the victim, then he can support her. He told me he would help her as much as he could, but that he is a college student with no money. I replied that he would have even less now because I was no longer going to pay his tuition or his expenses, that if he wanted to choose his mother over me, then he should also take care of his education. Marcus was shocked as if it had never occurred to him that his decisions could have consequences. He told me he could not afford to stay in college without my help, and I told him he should have thought about that before he decided to testify against me. Sarah overheard the conversation and ran towards us, yelling that I could not punish Marcus for telling the truth. I replied that Marcus lied under oath and now he has to live with the consequences of that decision, just as she has to with those of her affair. The current situation is that Sarah is living with her sister, but her sister's husband is already starting to get tired of having her there. Sarah has applied for several apartments, but her credit is not good and she has no recent employment history. Most places are asking for the first month, the last, and a security deposit up front, and she cannot afford it even with the $25,000 she got from the divorce. Marcus has returned to college, but he called me last week begging me to reconsider cutting off his financial support. He said he applied for student loans, but they do not cover all his expenses and he might have to drop out. I told him he could get a job like thousands of other college students do, or he could find a way to rebuild our relationship. He asked me what he would have to do, and I told him he would have to admit that he lied in court and apologize publicly for defaming me. He said he did not lie, that he just shared his perspective on the family dynamics. I replied that his perspective almost cost me my house and my financial security, and that I was not interested in his reinterpretation of the story. I have been living alone in my house for a few months, and honestly, it is quite peaceful. No drama, no walking on eggshells, no wondering what Sarah would be doing when she went out. I eat what I want, I watch what I want, and I do not have to answer to anyone. My brother thinks I am being too hard on Marcus, that he is just a kid caught in the middle of a bad situation, but I do not see it that way. Marcus made the decision to actively participate in trying to destroy me financially and legally. The fact that he is young does not justify lying under oath. Sarah has been trying to contact me through mutual friends asking for help with housing. Some people have suggested that I should lend her money for a deposit on an apartment for Marcus's sake, but I do not owe Sarah anything, and Marcus chose his side. I worked like a dog for 18 years to build a life for my family, and they both threw it in my face as soon as it was convenient for them. Now it is their turn to build their own lives without my help. Final update. Well, it has been 2 years and I never thought I would do an update again, but apparently karma is not done with my family yet. Marcus married his college girlfriend, Emma, last September. Obviously, I was not invited to the wedding, as we have not spoken since the divorce proceedings. I found out from my brother who heard it from another relative. Sarah paid for the wedding with borrowed money, trying to pretend she was financially well off. Emma seemed like a good girl the only time I met her before everything went to hell, smart, studied accounting, came from a good family. I always thought Marcus was lucky to have someone like her, but apparently he did not value it. 3 weeks ago, Emma discovered that Marcus was being unfaithful to her. And listen to this, he was cheating on her with a married woman he met through his mother. Sarah had finally gotten a job and Marcus started going over there from time to time. There he met this woman, Diane, about 35 years old, married with 2 children. The affair came to light because Diane's husband found text messages on her cell phone. He confronted her. She confessed everything, and then the husband contacted Emma directly on Facebook to tell her what was happening. Apparently, Marcus had been spending money they did not have on hotels and dinners with this woman, just as his mother did with David. Emma kicked him out immediately. She filed for divorce within a week and moved back in with her parents. She emptied their joint bank account and returned the wedding ring to Marcus by throwing it in his face in the parking lot of their apartment complex. This is where the story gets interesting for me. Marcus called me 2 weeks ago crying on the phone, begging me to help him. He said Emma took everything and that he cannot pay his rent or his car payments. He said he made a mistake and that he now understands what I went through with Sarah. He asked if I could help him pay for a divorce lawyer and maybe the rent until he gets back on his feet. I asked him if he was calling me to apologize for lying about me in court, and he said it was different because he was protecting his mother. I told him to call me when he was ready to admit he lied and apologize to me. Then I hung up. Sarah called me the next day. Apparently, she is also having financial problems. The job does not pay much because she is new and does not have a client base yet. Her sister's husband finally kicked her out of the house, so she has been living in a weekly motel that costs $300 a week. She asked if I would consider lending her money for the first month and the security deposit for an apartment. I asked her why I would do that, and she said for the sake of our family, and because Marcus needs stability while he is going through his divorce. I laughed out loud and told her that Marcus made his decision when he decided to testify against me, and that she made hers when she decided to screw David in my shower. She started to cry and said she knew she had made mistakes, but that I was being cruel and vengeful. She said the affair was a mistake and that she never wanted things to go this far. I told her that spending $7,000 on another man was not a mistake. It was a decision she made consciously every day for months. Then she said something that really made me angry. She said that if I helped them now, it would show that I was the bigger person and that I had truly forgiven them, as if forgiveness meant financing their lives after they tried to destroy mine. I told her that forgiving does not mean paying for their bad decisions and that I am not interested in being the bigger person. I told her I hoped that both she and Marcus would learn to live with the consequences of their choices, just as I had to learn to live with the consequences of mine. Marcus has called me 3 more times since then. Each call sounds more desperate. Apparently, he is behind on rent and his car is about to be repossessed. He dropped out of college because he could not afford it without my help, and now he works at a pizza place earning $12 an hour. The last time he called, he finally said he was sorry for testifying against me, but added that he did it because he believed his mother and thought he was doing the right thing. I told him that was not an apology for lying. It was an excuse for lying. There is a difference. Emma, in fact, contacted me a few weeks ago through Facebook. She said she wanted to apologize for not having seen through Marcus and Sarah's lies during the divorce proceedings. She commented that going through her own divorce made her understand what I must have felt being betrayed by people I trusted. The bottom line is that I am done with both of them. They are adults who made their decisions, and now it is their turn to live with the consequences. I spent too many years tolerating Sarah's behavior and trying to solve Marcus's problems. I am no longer their safety net. They burned that bridge when they decided to try to destroy my life.